Hey, welcome to this latest edition of Inside Pima County with Supervisor Rex Scott. And we are really pleased to have with us today somebody who runs one of our most important but perhaps lesser known departments, and that's Justice Services. And welcome, Kate Vesely. So
Thank you so
excited to have you
much.
with us.
Thank you, Supervisor Scott. I'm delighted to be here.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, we really appreciate you taking the time because I know from the frequent reports that the board gets about the work of your department, how busy you are. So to take time away from your day to talk with us means a great deal. And before we get started, our understanding is that congratulations are in order. You are recently married, very
Yes.
recently married.
Yes, I eloped in Montana just a couple weeks ago. So decided to change it up from the high temps to the low temps. I think it was a high of 50 degrees that day. So changing it up just a little bit.
Well, you're breaking the mold of what most people think about when they hear about elopement, because you don't usually go to the state where your parents live
That's
to
true.
elope.
That's true.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Very, very happy for you.
I appreciate that.
And we always like to start these podcasts, Kate, by asking our guests, and our guests are always program and department directors, to give us some sense of their professional journey and what brought them into the role that they currently fill.
Well, I'm a Tucson native. I like to say I'm a TMC baby. I was born and raised here. I've gone through the Tucson education, public education, and private education systems. I have now raising my own kids here in Tucson, and my family has been in Arizona since the 1800s as cotton farmers.
Oh my gosh.
So I'm, very invested in the local community. My parents were both civil servants themselves, so it was never really a question that I was going to go into government service too. I always knew when other kids were talking about being an astronaut, I knew that I wanted to be a bureaucrat. So I don't know what that says about my childhood, but my dad retired from Tucson Police Department. And as you know, my mom, she retired as an educator here in
Yes.
Arizona. She was a teacher, a principal, an assistant superintendent, and then she retired as a superintendent out of Phoenix. So I have a long, distinguished family history of working for our community.
That you do. That you do. And then the Justice Services Department, as I said, I really think it's one of our most critically needed departments. It's relatively new. Could you give us some sense of the scope of responsibilities for your department?
Sure. So we're about 5 years old now, and we started out as a small unit within county administration, just working to try and reduce the jail population. About a little over 10 years ago, our jail population was reaching over 2,300 individuals at some points of the year, way higher than is safe for individuals, way higher than we could do staffing. And it created not only a lot of problems for the detainees, but also problems for the healthcare system, problems for the judicial system. And so we knew that we needed to think differently about how we were using our jail, and county administration prioritized creating some strategies to be able to do so. As the jail sits today, we typically in this past year have settled into about the 1,700. So we've had about a 500 to 600 comfortable drop in our jail population. That has no correlation whatsoever to any increase in violent crime in the community. So we've reduced the jail population. We've saved millions of taxpayer dollars in unnecessary jail costs. And we have, in turn, improved community safety through some of the other strategies that have been put in place. And so we wanted to take that mindset and try and expand it into other areas of the justice system. What can we be doing that first and foremost promotes community safety, helps to save taxpayer dollars, and improve outcomes for people who are involved in the justice system? How do we break that cycle of incarceration so not only our community is safer, but lives are changed for individuals, their families, and their neighborhoods?
And probably one of the more visible components of your department's work is the transition center, and want to spend some time talking about the transition center and how it was developed and what its operations look like.
It is the crown jewel of our programs. We have a number of different programs. I'm always eager to talk about all of them, but the Transition Center has just been so exceptional in its growth and its impact. So we're about 3 years in now. We started largely in response to feedback from the community. We knew that one of our jail strategies, which is a pre-booking assessment by pretrial services for non-domestic violence misdemeanors. And what that means is that if somebody is arrested on a non-violent, non-dangerous misdemeanor, typically things like trespassing, disorderly conduct, they were being screened before they went into the jail and in many instances released back to the community with jail conditions, with court conditions, and a new court date. But they weren't going into custody. It saved taxpayers about $1 million a year alone just in that program. But the feedback from the community was that these individuals then were returning in many instances to homeless encampments, being unsheltered, not receiving assistance for mental health or substance use disorders. And the general discussion was, well, how do we then break the cycle for that person? If they're not getting intervention while they're in custody, what's the alternative? And that is how the concept of the Transition Center was born. We operate out of a very modest little modular building, as you know. You've visited us many times, right outside the jail. We're there in the jail parking lot. We are open Sunday to Saturday, 7 days a week, 8 a.m. until midnight. And so any day of the week, anybody, not just somebody who's coming out of jail, but anybody off the street, family members who have a loved one arrested, the Transition Center is a one-stop location for people to help get information, navigation, and connection to services if they are connected to the justice system. Now, how this works is we are staffed entirely by what we call justice navigators, and they are an incredible group of individuals, all who have their own lived experience in the justice system. And by that, I mean most of them have had their own histories going into prison, challenges with mental health and substance use disorder. They have been successful in their own recovery. They have made a commitment to try and help others who were once in their position try and achieve the recovery that they have. And so these individuals allow somebody to walk in the door without any stigma, without any judgment, and make a person feel like they are seen and that somebody believes in them and can give help and assistance. We really view our model as being a conduit to care. So if somebody comes in and they may have a number of different challenges that is affecting their overall stability in the community, we work on what they want to work on. So if they come in and they say, I'm not ready to stop using substances, but I would like housing, I would like to try and at least get an intake appointment with a treatment provider, we're here to try and connect them with those services. And what we have found by establishing that trust is that many individuals will come back weeks, months later and say, I wasn't ready then, but I am ready now. And I knew that this was the place I can go to get help by people who believe in me and I can trust.
When the various state attorneys general reached the settlement with the pharmaceutical companies that was necessary after the influx of opioids into our society, those funds were distributed to local governments around the country. And in Pima County, the towns of Sahuarita and Oro Valley each decided to use their portion of funds in their own way. But we work in partnership with the city of Tucson, the city of South Tucson, and the town of Marana to make joint use of the funds that all four of our jurisdictions get. Talk about how those funds were used to move the transition center, because this is pretty recent to 7-day operation.
We have dramatically expanded our staffing through the availability of those funds. So, what that looks like is instead of operating Monday through Friday, we are now operating Saturday and Sunday. But we've also significantly increased the number of staff that are there on site. Our volume has exploded. When we first started the transition center almost 3 years ago, the first month, I think we had about 30 or so people that came through, an average of, even though we were, Monday through Friday, we were averaging just a little bit more than 1 or 2 people per day. Now we are seeing about tenfold. We easily have 500 to 700 unique individuals that are walking through our door every single month. And that's not only individuals who just got released from custody. Because of our community outreach efforts, which is funded by the opioid settlement dollars, we are now sending staff out into the community as well. So we are out when they're doing encampment decommissionings. When TPD is doing some targeted deployments, we are out there with pretrial services, trying to resolve warrants, trying to get connected to services, and in many instances, reinstated on things like probation or pretrial community supervision. Our objective is to try and remove those justice barriers so that people can focus on what really matters, which is getting the help and care that they need. Those opioid settlement dollars have allowed us to really maximize our visibility, not only with those individuals, but also with family members. We have so many loved ones that reach out to us because their son, daughter, husband has been arrested, perhaps because it's their first psychotic break. We see a number of parents whose 18, 19, 20-year-olds, perhaps they're here from college and they live far away. Their child has a mental health challenge or crisis that somehow involves the justice system. We're able to help provide that parent information, navigation. We're able to provide reassurance about connecting them with services. And in some instances, we're able to facilitate a person returning back home to their support system. And so it's not just about the individuals we are seeing, but it's also about that community of support. Because when folks are truly successful in recovery, it has to go hand in hand with somebody who's caring and investing and supporting in them too. We want those individuals to have the tools they need.
So given that approach of wanting to try and meet people where they are and really individualize the level of services and supports that we give to them, was it so important from the get-go? I mean, this is essential to the model for the transition center that our staff are people with lived experience.
So it's been about 25 years or so for me in the justice system. And I started out as a cop's daughter. I was planning to go into national intelligence work, not the cool kind where you speak languages and you travel abroad, the kind that they put you in an office and you look at maps all day long. And I happened to get an internship just to be able to complete my graduate degree in Superior Court. And Superior Court had just launched their first mental health court, the first felony mental health court anywhere in Arizona. And I came in with all kinds of stigma. I had not had any experience in my youth about mental health or substance use disorder. And the very first woman that we brought in was an elderly woman who they had changed her medications and it triggered a psychotic break. And they brought her in, this is 25 years ago, like a caged animal. We would not treat somebody like this today. And she had a spit guard. She had 4-point restraints. And I thought, oh gosh, what have I gotten myself into here? But through the course of the year, we saw her change. And the most single biggest factor in her recovery was peers. We had peers who were coming to the court with her. We had peers that were helping her understand not only what was happening in the system, but also what was happening with her own diagnosis and her illness. We had peers who were supporting her family. After a year went by, she was the first person that we graduated from the mental health court. We invited her family to come in. She was living with her son and his family. And we also invited the police officer that had originally arrested her. And at the end of the ceremony, they embraced one another, they hugged, and I'm in the back of the courtroom just doing the ugly cry. was beautiful. And I knew that that was going to be it for me, that this was what the universe wanted my career to look like. And from every step forward, I have seen that the single biggest factor of success in every program that I've participated in, which has been a lot now, has been made better because of peers. I won't do a program without peers anymore. And I think it's really important that when you have somebody who's walking in your door, it might be the worst day they've ever had. This might be the first time they've been arrested. It might be the 100th time. They might be having a mental health crisis. They might be detoxing from substances. And it's a lot for a brain to process. Having somebody there who just cares, who isn't there because they have to be, because the court told them to be, who isn't there to monitor your behavior. All those factors are very important, but in the specific milieu that we are in, having a peer sets a safe place. And for that brain that is very hyperstimulated, particularly by trauma and crisis, that helps to regulate a person's emotional system. When they are regulated, they are able to relax enough to think about the future. They are able to think about, where am I going to sleep tonight? If they come in a hyperstimulated state, it's very difficult to do that type of planning. And that's why we see a lot of folks return to encampments, substance use, because they continue to be in that hyper state. Peers really help to regulate that aspect of a person, and it helps to build trust from get one.
You're more likely to be willing to listen to and work with somebody with whom you've established trust and rapport, and the credibility of that common experience helps as the basis for establishing that rapport and trust that's so crucial. You talked about one of the barriers that we try to surmount within the transition center, and one that's been of great interest to the board is warrant resolution, because the whole focus of the transition center is to deal with recidivism, to prevent repeat offenders from offending over and over and over. But sometimes not resolving a warrant has more to do with lack of understanding of the system than it does a willful disregard for the law. So talk about how warrant resolution is central to the work of the transition center, and how we've done so far with that area of focus.
I'm so glad that you brought this up, because we really have you to thank for our warrant resolution program. You championed this, and we were able to get it implemented with your support in a very short period of time. Warrants are still the number one reason that somebody goes into jail. It is, as you mentioned, very frequently much more a reflection about life circumstances than a willful disregard for the authority of the court. Many individuals receive a court date at their initial appearance, but most folks don't know that almost certainly that court date will change. And if you don't have an address where that new paperwork can be emailed or mailed to you, if you don't have an email address, if you don't have a computer at easy access, it's difficult to get those notifications. In many instances, people have to choose between going to work and going to court, or what to do with childcare, what to do with transportation. And all those barriers really present a lot of logistical challenges that an individual may be very happy to go to court, but for all those barriers to get over. One thing that we really wanted to emphasize is that you don't have to wait for a warrant to happen or for law enforcement contact to get a warrant resolved. You can proactively reach out. And in most instances, if you have a warrant, you will not go to jail if you reach out to the court, reach out to pretrial services, reach out to us, and we'll help get you squared away. We'll get a new court date set, and then that warrant is removed from your record for the duration up until until that court. And then the transition center steps in and is calling that person the night before to remind them that court's coming up. They're working with them on transportation. We have a taxi contract that is grant funded, that if individuals don't have a reliable way to get to court, especially for folks who live in rural areas who can't access the bus, we're able to send a taxi to pick them up. We have had taxis pick folks up from Green Valley,
Oh, wow.
Sahuarita, just to make it to Tucson City Court or some of the other local area courts. Because they have not only that peer support, but also that logistical coordination, it makes it much more feasible for people to completely adjudicate their cases.
One of the things I really appreciate and enjoy about our work together as supervisors and staff is that I really didn't know much, if anything, about warrant resolution until there was both verbal and written input to the board from one of our deputy county administrators, Steve Holmes. And it was based on that initial level of knowledge, courtesy of Mr. Holmes, that I did push really hard for warrant resolution. And I'm glad that it's been so successful. Again, we talked, Kate, at the beginning of this conversation about how the transition center is such a focus of the work of your department. I love that you refer to it as the crown jewel of Justice Services, but it's not everything that Justice Services is responsible for. So talk to us about some of the other areas of focus and responsibility for you and your team.
So if folks are a justice nerd like me, I really encourage you to go online, go to the SAMHSA Gaines Center website and check out something called the Sequential Intercept Map. And what that does is it breaks the justice system down into those decision points. So the decision point of law enforcement, the decision point of booking somebody, each part of the justice system is broken down sequentially, and our department tries to provide information, training, best practices, support throughout each one of those intercepts. So I like to think of us as the health department for the justice system. We are here to help address those current unhealthy behaviors, and we are here to create strategies to prevent those future unhealthy behaviors. Starting all the way out at Intercept Zero, which actually, if you look at the national model, Intercept Zero didn't exist initially. It was based on the Crisis Response Center and Tucson Police Department's deflection programs, and it was later incorporated into the national model. I contacted the Gaines Center and asked them to take a look at it. So Intercept Zero is from Pima County, and I'm very proud that we were able to create this new national best practice standard. Things that we do in Intercept 0 and 1 to support law enforcement include our crisis intervention team training. It's a 40-hour training for law enforcement and other public safety professionals around de-escalation, resources, and how to connect and navigate certain systems. We also are...
We get a lot of participation in those
sure
trainings, too. I went to the kickoff session of one of your training programs, and the room was packed.
We typically have between 40 and 50, and we cap it around there. We always have a wait list, and this is about 17, 18 years now that I've been involved in the CIT program.
Wow.
When we first started, it was difficult to get people to participate, but as time has gone by and we have perfected the training itself, we have gotten more and more interest and participation. Now, sometimes people have to wait several months before they're able to get into one of our trainings, but the results speak for themselves. More than half of Tucson Police Department is crisis intervention trained. And I think just about every law enforcement agency in Pima County has sent staff to participate, particularly jail. We have lots of corrections officers that have been trained in this program. It's a nationally recognized model, and we now do advanced CIT training, and we also have refresher courses for people who've been out of the training for more than 3 years, like mental health, or like first aid or mental health first aid.
What is the regional incentive regional initiative, not incentive, for safety and engagement? I know the board has gotten some information about this initiative, but it's been a while since we have, and would really appreciate an update and an introduction for our listeners and viewers.
So we're calling this the RISE program,
Right.
and it is also one of the opioid-funded settlement programs. We are creating a regional co-responder. So co-responder models are becoming national practice across law enforcement agencies, and Tucson Police Department has had a co-responder program for several years now. How it works is we're not talking about a clinician riding in the car with a police officer all the time. That does happen. But instead, the clinician and law enforcement working together to try and problem solve. Sometimes there is a criminogenic issue that the detectives are taking and they are trying to coordinate some healthcare. Other times, it really needs to just be a clinical intervention and law enforcement needs to step back. A co-responder program is really the wave of the future. Every police department in the coming years is going to be looking at implementing something like this. However, as far as I know, we will be the first regional co-responder program anywhere in the country. And what we are working with is those entities that consolidated the opioid funding. So we're going to target Tucson, South Tucson, Marana, and rural Pima County first in this program. We have selected Connections Health Solutions as our subrecipient for this grant funding that just got approved, I think, last week. And so now we're going to be able to move forward with hiring those clinicians that we're going to embed within these police departments directly. We have a program manager who has been selected, Cynthia Chapman. She is a former police officer from the DC area, and she's got a bachelor's degree in criminal justice and a master's degree in human rights. She worked for Adult Protective Services. She worked in the sexual assault division at the University of Arizona. So she has a lot of both clinical and law enforcement experience, and she's going to be heading up that program for us. We are focusing first, as I said, on those departments that decided to pool our funding, and we're piloting right now a soft launch in South Tucson. So how that's going to look is we're going to hire both clinicians and peers, and they will be embedded within those departments several days a week. They'll be able to forward cases with a mental health or crisis nexus, individuals that are familiar faces or frequent flyers, however you want to phrase those, and those individuals be able to help directly problem solve with law enforcement. So we are excited. We're working right now to get those staff hired, and we expect to be launching formally within the next couple of months.
And in terms of learning from your partners, sharing best practices, we really have a strong foundation to build on based on the co-responder experience within the city of Tucson and their police department.
Tucson Police Department, especially the mental health support team, the core team, they are a national model. The Department of Justice has recognized them as a learning site, and Justice Services, our department, is a partner within that. We have agencies travel from all across the country who come and visit to learn what we're doing with co-responders, diversion and deflection, the CRC, the transition center. It's all part of one ecosystem, and our very close relationship with Tucson Police Department makes this feasible because we think of it as one ecosystem. It's not a city and a county. It's the justice system has everything integrated. And because of that partnership and foundation and their leadership that they have already established in this space, we've been able to build from that into this community-wide model, because we know these individuals typically don't stick to one jurisdiction.
Sure.
They will go from Tucson to South Tucson to Pima County, and the more we can coordinate information and those resources, we're going to get better economies of scale and better outcomes for those individuals.
Kate, I wanted to wrap up by asking you a two-part question and go any direction or set of directions that you want to go in with this. First of all, what do you see as some of the areas of focus for your department moving forward? And then the second part of the question is anything about the work of your department that we didn't talk about during this interview?
Well, I really see this work continuing to grow and expand. I have just the most amazing staff of individuals, and we truly love visitors at the Transition Center. If anybody watching this is interested in having a tour or learning more about what we do, I really hope that they reach out to us. You can email justiceservices@pima.gov. We would love to hear from you. Uh, the amazing work that we're doing is, I think, just the cusp of what we're going to accomplish over the next 10 years. We are leaning heavily into behavioral science and behavioral economics. I see the future of our work really looking at, okay, we are addressing this individual's behaviors for the moment, but how do we create situations and services and court programs that is going to give this person tools to make a lifelong change, a permanent behavioral change? And we're doing that with a lot of science. We collect incredible amounts of data through the Transition Center, through our relationships with the courts, with the Sheriff's Department. The jail provides data that we use to look at these large-scale analytics to see where people are making those behavioral changes and trying to understand why. The more we can understand not only what programs are making a difference, but what aspects of those programs are truly creating that behavioral change, so that we can extrapolate that and try it out in other systems and programs. So everything we're doing has a very scientific, data-driven approach. I really see this being especially relevant in our community-wide work around unsheltered individuals.
Yes.
That has been a growing trend, and certainly the city and the county have been working very diligently to try and address these issues. And we've been trying a lot of out-of-the-box things. We've been trying to try new things and collect data to see what's working. And we have seen just small tweaks make big returns in people returning to court and people maintaining compliance with court conditions. And the more that we can partner with our other justice institutions, other data scientists to really understand what's causing that, we're going to be able to build and grow from there. And we've written, I'm on my 4th grant application in the middle of it right now specifically targeting that population so that we do have resources to really try new things, collect data, and see what's working and what's not. So I'm very excited for the next coming years, and cross your fingers that some of these grants come through.
Well, I'm certain that they will, because the grantors will see not only the foundation of success that your department is building on, but the potential for future success. So thank you so much for your leadership and commitment. And once again, Kate Vesely, congratulations on your recent marriage.
Thank you, Supervisor Scott. Thank you very much for having us and highlighting Justice Services. We're very honored to speak with you. Thank you.
Absolutely our privilege. Thank you. And thank all of you for watching and tuning in.